Hello, my friends. Welcome. We are live, loud and proud across the interwebs this morning for our first ever World Builders workshop for a bit of a D&D action. Very excited to share some thoughts and things with you as well. If you are just joining us and you're not aware, we do a lot of D&D here on our YouTube channel. But without further ado, it's time to get into it. So let's roll those credits. Hello again, folks. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt, and if you don't know me by now, it's okay. I'm sure we're going to become the very best of friends. As I said in the tease, today we are talking all things Dungeons and Dragons for our World Builders workshop. Now, this is a chance for folks to pick my brain about all the different worlds that we're creating. I've been writing modules now for D&D 5th edition for the better part of 2 and a bit years. And starting off with the simple idea and building from there, I just thought I wanted to impart some wisdom with you all this morning or this evening, depending on which part of the world you're in. So, what does it take to build a world for your D&D players to run amok in? Why would you even want to do that in the first place? Who knows? I think part of the reason that I wanted to do something like this was because it imparts, obviously, some wisdom. But it also allows me to help others explore and flesh out their own worlds. A lot of people are telling me, Matt, we don't have the time. We just want to run our own modules. We just want to run stuff that's already been published. We don't have to do any of the prep. We don't have to think about it. We just want to know how it works. But resources that are published are limited. Being able to create something from scratch is where the game of Dungeons and Dragons truly shines. And that, my friends, is what I want to talk to you today about. Now, if you have questions, by all means, pop them in the chat. Just preface your comments with a question in caps so I know that it's a question rather than just generic comments. We are going out live across Facebook, Twitch, and of course our friends over in the YouTubes. So by all means, please jump on board and let us know what you think. If you're watching this back later, by all means, I'd love to hear your thoughts too. Because I know that 9:30 in the morning on a Monday here in Australia is not necessarily the best time for everyone else. All right, so what does it take to build a world in this wonderful, vast multiverse that is D&D? I think you have to build up to it. Some people just jump right in and go for it, which is great. But I think if you're looking to really build yourself a decent storyline and everything else, Dungeons and Dragons is, after all, about storytelling en masse. I think you need to go through a few steps, and I've got them here for you. So one of the first things you can do if you're looking to build a world of your own is, of course, understand how worlds work. The best way to do that is to run some modules. Doesn't matter what they are. It could be published modules. Lost Mine of Phandelver is a fantastic module. One of the ones that I've run many times before I started writing my own. Along with that, I have literally, if I look a bit under the weather, it is because I was up until 5 o'clock this morning, Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, running my first session of Tyranny of Dragons, which went way into the night and was epic as hell. So running modules and seeing how they work, published adventures like you can see behind me here, will give you a bit of an insight into how these worlds can be created, because the modules themselves are never just the adventurers go here and do this. The modules are very much a fleshed out world that your players can do pretty much whatever they want in. And that, again, is one of the beauties of this particular game that we know and love so much. In addition to running those modules and things, if you want some recommendations, reach out to me. I can give you some well and truly wonderful suggestions. Ghosts of Saltmarsh, Candlekeep Mysteries, that sort of stuff is quite fantastic. Tales from the Yawning Portal is another one. A tavern adventure series of adventures is very good as well. One of the other things when it comes to world building that I think is very paramount is think about the monsters that you would like to see your players face. Is there a particular beastie in the monster manual? And that is what this is for here, this one, the monster manual. That is what it's there for. To allow you to look up all sorts of stat blocks and creatures and nasties, so you can put your players in harm's way and give them something truly epic to battle. If you go through the monster manual and you find something you'd never come across in another module, chances are maybe that's a source of inspiration for you. Have a look at that and go, okay, how can I work that in? Is that my big bad omnipotent evil? Is there more going on? And that alone will provide you inspiration to help create this wonderful world that you're looking for. In addition to creating monsters, all it takes is a simple idea. That's all you need. To create a world, you just need a single idea and just run with it. It doesn't have to be absolutely game-changing at all. It doesn't have to be... Yes, we read the manual. Darren, exactly right. We read the manual. You must read the monster manual. You also need to read one of these. Dungeon Master's Guide. If you're a Dungeon Master and you are looking for inspiration, there is recipes upon recipes in order to create monsters and worlds and locations as well. So by all means, check that out. It is vital pieces of information. But an idea is all it takes. I am going to talk a little bit about a homebrewed world that I have developed over the last, I'll say, 8 or 9 months. And from literally one word on a page, it has grown exponentially to become something all its own. And I'm very, very proud of it. And I'm very proud of the players that have helped shape it into what it is today. So what am I talking about? What sort of ideas can we use to give us some inspiration? For the world of my Shenabor, which is a campaign setting that obviously have been developing over some time, it literally started with one single word on a page: dark. That's it. Just the word dark. That word spawned a verbal diarrhea of stuff that I'd written down on a page on my laptop. And from there came mythos, came an idea that spawned another idea, which spawned another idea, which spawned continents on the world of my Shenabor, the realm of my Shenabor. And now there is something omnipotent evil that is potentially trying to break through into the realm of my Shenabor, and obviously many different continents and lands to explore: cities, towns, villages, etc. And over time, the map originally started with very blank, very sparse. But as games developed and as campaigns have been run in that setting, new locations have been discovered, new beasties, new everything. And it's been quite a spectacular experience. So sometimes one single word is enough to kickstart your imagination. And again, it doesn't have to be anything whiz-bang amazing. It doesn't have to be, the surprise ending of Usual Suspects or something like that. It just has to be a simple idea that you can lock onto and run with and help you create something all your own. One thing I will say, one caveat to that leads to my next point. When you are world building, it's very important that you keep one of these. Simple scrapbook, logbook, whatever it is, you take notes. Chances are, as you're playing through a one-shot in your homebrewed world, something might come up. One of the players might decide to do something completely off book, off the beaten path, and go to somewhere new. And on the fly, if you come up with an NPC name or come up with a location or a set of ruins or something, jot it down, add it to your world. It becomes canon, which is fantastic. So keeping a scrapbook is vital, very, very important to do so. I think working through my Shenabor and developing that as a whole, we still have continents that haven't even been visited by players yet. Snowglen, out on the island of Snowreach, is a small village that has been featured in a couple of one-shots that I've put together. In addition, our Junior Heroes Guild here at HP Gaming is allowed to run amok through the realm of my Shenabor. They started on the main continent, one of the main continents of Arkenhath, at the Heroes Guild Hall, and have since explored so many different locations, regions, ruins, tunnels. They've found ancient portal gates that help them traverse the wild beyond. One of them has even ventured off on their own, befriended horses, found other allies, NPCs, resulting in culminating in a final battle before Christmas of 2022, where all of our heroes returned to the guild hall and were set upon by a Fomorian, which is a giant, literally mutated giant monster. And the battle was absolutely spectacular. I think it was a good nearly 2 hours of solid combat to bring that bad boy down. And they did it. They were victorious, but not without loss. They very, very nearly lost one of their own in the process. So keeping a scrapbook of all of your different bits and pieces, things that come up in play, even having it with you as you're moving around, doing your day-to-day, something may come up and you go, oh, that's fantastic. If you don't jot it down, it will be lost forever to time, to the ether. So please keep a logbook, keep a note of all those different things that can help you build a world and help you bring your world to life. Most importantly, above anything else, and this is probably, of all of the, other than maybe having the idea, probably the most important thing that you can consider when you are building a world for D&D 5th edition, or any edition for that matter. You need to believe in the world you're creating. If you believe what's going on, if you believe in it, that will come across and your players will believe in it too. It is so important to, it's one thing to just generate a world. It's one thing to really get into the guts of it and believe it and be passionate and proud about it as well. If you're passionate and you're sitting at the table and you're describing these beautiful vistas and everything else and going into immense detail, your players are going to be transported with you. That immersion is, again, one of the things we love about D&D. So you need to be able to be proud of the world it is you're creating. Use the player's handbook to flesh out your cities, towns, villages with different folks. Don't be afraid to deviate from dwarves, elves, halflings. There's so many other races that are out there. Have a look at Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, Xanthar's Guide to Everything, all that sort of stuff. The Volo's Guide to Monsters is basically a subsidiary of the Monster Manual. Check that one out as well. Epic, epic level monsters that are in there as well. Being able to add those in to your campaign will just give your world a little bit more of a personal touch. And I will say too, don't be afraid to homebrew. Homebrewing monsters can be a lot of fun, especially if you start with a base monster from our friend here. You can then change stats, adjust things, and make it your own, and give it a bit more of a flair. So those veteran players who have beaten a lot of the monsters in here will come up against something they think they know and find a few little surprises in store, and that is fantastic. We've recently just finished a Spelljammer campaign of my own devised derision design, and the big bad at the end of the monster was not the big bad monster at the end was not the actual big bad they thought it was going to be, and that was truly spectacular. Being able to present a creature with a challenge rating of 20 to a group of level 12 players, it was dicey. Combat lasted for 2.5 hours. It was just spectacular. And I will say the comments and support that I received from those players from that international game, amazing, makes it all worthwhile. Lots of prep, but that's why we love it. Excuse me. So, in terms of world building, my Shenandoah is something I'm quite proud of. It's a campaign setting I've used for a lot of different things now. It actually has predominantly been used by the Heroes Guild, but I will say the Heroes Guild has become a thing of all its own. The Junior Heroes Guild is running amok through my Shenandoah. I will say too, there is a bunch of adults potentially. We are looking for playtesters to unleash adults upon the world of my Shenandoah as well, and that's pretty exciting as well. So if you're interested, by all means, hit us up. We are looking to, without giving too much away, my Shenandoah and the High Council of the capital are going to be seeking heroes to bring about an evil mage to justice for crimes against the capital and against the continent of Arkenhath. So by all means, stay tuned for that one. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of chaos. So we're here today to talk about world building. I've talked about a few different things that I sort of use as tools in order to help flesh out a world. But I guess if we're here and it's a world builder's workshop, let's build a world. So I guess I'm going to throw it open. Does anyone have any ideas, any things they would like to see? As I said, it comes down sometimes to a single idea that can shape or inspire you to create something truly wonderful and truly magical? Do you want a realm that is deep in magic, like the Feywild? Do you want something that is in the outer reaches of the stratosphere in space, like a Spelljammer campaign? Thinking about the overarching theme can be what dictates you to develop your continents or planets or whatever the case may be. And literally anything goes. That's the beauty of this thing. There is no wrong answer here. So I guess if you have an idea that comes to mind, by all means, kick it out and we'll see what happens. In terms of running modules, practicing, that's the thing as well. It's one thing to design a world, but until you get players in that world, which are the one unknown, you can never guarantee you're going to be able to steer people in a certain direction. You just don't know how much your world has already been fleshed out until you have players let loose upon it. So I think that's something that is, I don't know, it's a beautiful thing. When you create a world, you create an encounter, you create a continent, and you set these players loose. And instead of going where you expect them to go, where you've sort of led them, with the breadcrumb trail you've left for them, they go off into the wilderness for 3 days travel. And you've got to come up on the fly and think of different things to keep them entertained, keep them engaged, and hopefully eventually lead them back off the beaten path. But sometimes when they go off on their own, that is when the true magic happens. So don't be afraid to let your players go off on a grand adventure. I will say too, as I said before, inspiration from monsters. Some of the monsters that I've utilized in the past to inspire other beasties that I've built. I do a lot of homebrewing now for magical items, creatures, things like that. For example, there is this guy over here, the Nothic, who is a spectacular ex-wizard morphed by evil magics, other bits and pieces as well. He is a nasty piece of work and quite formidable for low-level characters, but at the same time, they, I should say, will allow you to really flesh out the players' skills and prowess, particularly in combat. And the fact they communicate with telepathy allows you to really mess with them. So using a character that or a creature that only speaks through telepathy, that's craziness. Now, Darren, hey, hello, how you going? We've had a bit of a chat already this morning. You've got here living on a frozen over ocean, sail ships on giant skates. Ooh, I dig that. So we're getting a bit of an Icewind Dale setting, but instead of being a frozen tundra, it's literally an ocean that has snapped frozen through an ice age, ages past. So if that's happened in the previous history of the realm, maybe that's the you've got a history prior to the endless ice age, the frozen times, or the end times. Maybe this is now the second age of the frozen times. It's like 1,000 years, 2,000 years since the realm had frozen over. Sailing ships. I get this idea of like Mad Max on ice kind of vibes, and I kind of dig that as well. That's awesome. So if we're going to proceed with this, then you've got this frozen over ocean. Did the people on the sail ships, is that islands? Is that there where they live, not just transport? Are there land masses that are literally all winter? Instead of land masses, is it just literally just frozen ocean, endless water, water world style? Polar ice caps have melted, everything's frozen solid, and these people have to live on these floating flotillas, I guess, on skates and get around full on, epic Mad Max style. I don't know. That sounds cool. I like that idea. And then, of course, what's happening in that situation? What's going to bring the players or send them out onto the frozen ocean? What are they looking for? They're looking for the fabled last plot of land. Are they looking for links to the past to see what it is that's gone before? Any semblance of maybe plant life or any living aquatic life, fresh water? The possibilities are endless. And it's one simple idea like this. Darren, good job. Can help you. I mean, listen to what I've just spouted off, all of this rubbish. It's crazy. I will say too, Dungeon Master's Guide, in this instance, you can have a look at some of the recipes that are in there about continents, map building, regions, etc. And there's tables you can roll on. So you can get one of these bad boys. my epic metal dice, and roll against that table and get a random feature of the world you're trying to create. And that in itself is amazing. The fact that you can use those tables to help generate a world and then kickstart your thought process, like we've just done with Darren's idea, allows us to then move on and on and on and create something insane. The idea of Mad Max on ice, a world where there is literally nothing but frozen ocean, and you have these giant flotillas that have all sorts of bells and whistles, people living on them, etc. Maybe one of them gets attacked by another larger vessel. Maybe the players are now going to have to go off on an adventure, try and find resources to keep those surviving people alive. As I said, maybe they're trying to find landmass. Are there creatures underneath the ice floating in what little water there is left and breaking through the surface? Like, for example, he says if he can find one, perhaps underneath the water, there's one of these. A giant, big, crazy ice worm or some sort of thing like that. Now, this is a grave drinker from Ravenloft. But what if the grave drinker wasn't a grave drinker and was actually looking to, I don't know, jump out of the ice and all that sort of stuff, all sorts of crazy stuff. I love it. I dig it. There we go. So there's so many ways to adapt a simple idea and develop it into something quite fantastic. Based on what Darren's put forward, anyone else got any ideas on how you could, how does that world look? Is it literally, as I said, one frozen ocean? Is there any landmass on there? If so, any continents, or are they not continents? It's the possibilities are quite endless. Monsters, we've talked about the giant ice worm that is underneath the water. Is there anything else that you think are there? I've got these little, well, for example, this guy, a giant ice dragon, will, or white dragon, I should say, would most definitely do the job as villains in there. And then, of course, you have little nomads. Again, these are Rime the Frost Maiden 2D standee minis, but they've got all sorts of details. They've got bow and arrows and other bits and pieces there as well, which would do the job too. So nomadic tribes versus other nomadic tribes, maybe because of the second age of the frozen tundra, weaponry and other things have basically dialed back to Stone Age, and it's literally tribal nomadic situation where there's no way of gathering other bits and pieces. Those people that have got magics, those people who wield flame, could be highly sought after to be able to provide warmth for their tribe. Maybe they are revered as deities. Who knows? There's so many possibilities there. I think that's fantastic. It's a really good idea. Darren, you're on point. I love it. So I guess, having said that, obviously we believe in the idea. We've talked a little bit about the backstory of it. An islander versus nomad situation. Yeah, I like it. Maybe there is, if you have the islanders versus the nomads, how does that look in terms of conflict? Are the nomads trying to find a place to potentially set up shop and actually become islanders themselves? Why are they fighting? What's going on there? Is there some sort of religious element? Is there, I don't know, the possibilities around this. It's basically a matter of just finding something that works for you, committing to it, and making it your own. And that's how worlds are created. I mean, even over the last, 5 minutes, we've basically discussed and fleshed out the beginnings of quite a fantastic campaign setting, I would imagine. Very cold one, a winter campaign, that's for sure. But I think there's ways to, as you see, just by having one idea, and it doesn't have to be an amazing idea. Granted, Darren's idea was pretty amazing, but taking that idea and just running with it is going to give you so much play to develop the world. And again, grab one of those. So Darren, if you are not jotting all this down in a workbook or a logbook right now as we're chatting about it, I think maybe you should be, because there's a campaign in there or at least a campaign setting that you could put together. I will say too, my first campaign I ever wrote, a module I ever wrote was, you're very welcome, Darren, absolute pleasure. Was a Brotherhood of Scales. Now, Brotherhood of Scales was originally going to be posted on DM's Guild. In light of recent events, OGL notwithstanding, it won't be published on there. It'll be available either from our website or from other means. We haven't decided yet. We've actually held back just so that, yeah, we're waiting to see how the dice fall, as it were. But Brotherhood of Scales I wrote on the fly because Charlotte wanted to play. We ran a one-shot and she loved it and then wanted to know what happened next. So I developed a story around what had already transpired, and we came up with the Brotherhood of Scales. Now, this is an adventure that traditionally spans from 1st level to 5th level, but is also scalable to adventurers of 5th level to 9th level. And having run it many times now and running 2 campaigns of the same setting concurrently, I can honestly say every time I play this campaign, things happen very, very differently. What started off as literally 8 pages, an 8-page treatment, has become a vast, I don't have the binder here with me, a vast binder with whole chapters based on cities, NPCs that are contained within. And every time I run it, there's a new NPC that pops up. Gwillem the Guard, or Mrs. Armitage, who runs an air D&D of sorts in the town of Lelon, who is frightfully guilty of overcharging people. Daylor, who is one of the proprietors of the 3 Pillows in Lelon, which is a tavern /inn/ night spot. I'll leave you to determine what that means. But starting off with an 8-page treatment and then watching this thing grow as well, even though it's originally set in the Forgotten Realms setting, it's adaptable to obviously Mychenibor, and obviously probably become something from the Mychenibor setting in future. But watching that campaign develop and become something all its own has been spectacular to watch, and letting players loose in it and seeing what they do. No spoilers, because some of them, as I said, may very well be watching this video, so we don't want to give away the ending, particularly as they traverse dungeons and other bits and pieces as well. So having said all that, yes, recapping, run some modules. If you're interested in having a look over Brotherhood of Scales, reach out to me. I might be able to get you a pre-release copy. Draw inspiration from those epic monsters. If there's monsters you've never used in a D&D campaign that you'd always want to use, and even if there's nothing in the monster manual or the other books, homebrew something. Don't be afraid to build a creature and build a world around that creature. There is, the Spelljammer campaign that I've just concluded, they, spoiler alert, they discovered that there was a giant space worm that was literally taking bites out of ships. And as it took a bite out of ships, it would actually transport to the other side of the multiverse or the other side of the astral sea, because it would create wormholes. Being a giant space worm, wormholes, you get it. So creating that on a screen for Roll20 and running that with the players, it was like literally looking at an old school 90s RPG, 8-bit RPG top-down thing. It was just spectacular. So that was fantastic. The homebrew creature for that has an epic stat block and some crazy teleportation abilities, things like that. The idea for this Spelljammer module that I've written and just run through came about because I wanted to explore those creatures. I wanted to show those epic, crazy Spelljammer creatures. I don't have the book here in front of me, but the Boo's Astral Menagerie book has some crazy creatures in it, absolutely insane. And I wanted to explore that. So I created a character who was the David Attenborough of the Rock of Brawl, and literally took adventurers out on a tour of the astral sea, exploring all manner of weird and wonderful creatures. And from that stemmed an epic adventure that ended up taking creatures and players through to the Far Realm and back again. We got into a bit of Lovecraft mythos. It was just, I'm very, very proud of it. It was awesome. So an idea like that is very important. The scrapbook, I've touched on it a couple of times. Keeping a scrapbook, make sure you keep one of those handy at all times as you are building your world, because it will help you jot down ideas as they come to mind. Even if you're driving, get a little. Most mobile phones have like a voice memo recording device. Speak into it. Record any thoughts you have while you drive, because ultimately, well, don't touch your phone while you're driving. Put it on hands-free. But you know what I mean. Notate everything down as soon as you can, even if it means you have to pull over. It might seem stupid and inconvenient, but it could be the bit that makes your campaign or your world setting stand out from everything else that's out there. And most importantly, believe in it. Believe what you're trying to create. Believe in it, because if you do, your players will as well. But yeah, I hope that gives you a bit of an insight into my crazy world building craziness that I do. I've realized as well that I've got so passionate about creating the world, I forgot to put the graphic on to actually show all the socials and everything else you can follow us on, obviously YouTube and everything else there too. But in terms of world building, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. You can, I think I've got it up here somewhere, reach out to us at orders@hpgaming.com.au. At the same time, we have a plethora of world building / D&D content as well. And you can see there it is all there in the bottom of the screen. For those of you outside of Australia and New Zealand, unfortunately, I can't help you with your gear, but I can help you via email. You can always log on to start playing as well. Try and find us. I'm always running adventures. I have another campaign that is starting up soon. So by all means, hit me up in that regard. I guess, hopefully, maybe we'll be able to go on some epic adventures together. Now, I will say, Darren has just popped up this one here. So I will say this. One of the beautiful things about D&D is if you can think of a monster, it doesn't matter what it looks like, there is going to be a mini for it. Darren, I have literally got here this guy. He is literally a slime ooze demon lord that would be effectively, that kind of monster. You'll be able to use that without question. The other thing you've got there too, being able to split up and ambush a lot of the jelly monsters that feature in 5th edition ochre jellies, gelatinous cube not so much, but they have the ability to morph. If someone makes a slashing attack against them and is strong enough, it splits the ooze into 2, and then all of a sudden you're fighting 2 monsters instead of 1. And if they can split again, right until the point where they get to tiny. So maybe adapt one of those stat blocks into one of these monsters to go from there. It's just, the possibilities are literally endless. And all you have to do, or I think all you're limited by, is literally your imagination. And I think that's fantastic, and that's one of the many, many reasons why we love D&D. If you are going to create creatures and you're going to create worlds, you will need a ton of these. Not so much just the gold dice that I have here, but you'll probably need, there's never such a thing as too many dice. But this is my half of my dice collection. So by all means, get some dice so you can roll on those tables to help you generate. If you don't have a copy of the DM's guide, the Dungeons and Masters guide, the basic rules that are available on Dungeons and Dragons websites, D&D Beyond, will give you a bit of insight into how to create those different worlds, how to run combat, etc. And ultimately, if you you are very punny, Mr. Darren, you are very punny indeed. Ultimately, I guess I should say, the beauty of the world is that if you are looking to create the world, looking to write material for your D&D world, your universe that you're creating, you can always run through the encounters you're building solo and see what happens when you roll against a monster as a party of one. It sounds weird to play D&D solo, but you can do it. Obviously, a roll of the dice is about as random as it can get. So take up arms against one of those monsters. The monster, you know what the monster will do is if it's got only 2 or 3 attacks, it'll have 1 or 2 go-tos and maybe a legendary point of attack or whatever the case may be. Go up against those monsters yourself. See how they play out. If it's engaging and you find yourself getting really engrossed, then chances are your players are going to enjoy it too. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to run some combat solo. But there you go. I guess, I don't know, I sort of feel like I've talked everyone's ear off for the better part of half an hour about how my sort of thought process works. As I said, I've got a Harry Potter module I've put together. I've got Brotherhood of Scales, which is probably my most successful module to date. I'm hoping that this new module that I'm writing, that I'm about to start playtesting, is going to be a big success as well. In addition to that, Wellebrand Wadworth's Astral Curiosities was a big success, and now that is complete and whole. That'll be something that potentially we'll be able to take other adventurers on as well, and maybe even bring that into the fore. Maybe that takes place in the realm space above my Shenandoah. Maybe, who knows? It's an epic world, and it's all linked together, and I think it's fantastic. I think the Shenandoah setting as it's developed now, and maybe I don't have a map here that I can upload, but maybe I can. The maps for Shenandoah became, I don't know, it started off as something so simple and has become something rather epic indeed. And that's predominantly because of the heroes themselves, how they have traversed the world, etc. If I can put up the original map setting, I'm going to upload that now. And then I'm going to show you what the setting is currently. And you can sort of get a sense for how the world has progressed. Even then, some of these continents are yet to be explored, which I think is fantastic. I will say too, in the My Shenandoah Junior Heroes Guild, one of the heroes has gone in it alone and had their own solo adventure because none of the other players could make it. So they are a bit ahead in terms of their knowledge. So if you look at the first map of My Shenandoah that was ever revealed, I should say, it looks like this. And you can see here at the top of the page, you've got the banner My Shenandoah. This was made in Incarnate, which is a wonderful map building tool. You've got this seahorse-like land of Arkenhath. You have Snowreach in the top corner, a maelstrom of death and destruction, the Frostlands beneath Farm Katoosh, Van Roost. You have Triland. You have the Deathwind Isles. You have Nemencast to the south. There is a complete world there ready to be explored. Now that, as I said, my friends, was the initial map that was presented to our junior heroes and advertised on our material before we started getting everyone involved. This is the map now after 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sessions I think we've had now with the Junior Heroes Guild, once a month at least since since September, I should say. And it looks like this. So you can see here, Deathwind Isles, Snowglen haven't really been touched. Nemencast, Frostlands, Farm Katoosh hasn't been visited. Triland hasn't. But if you look up here, you can see the Guild of Heroes. There is Tellendale. There is the Old Mill Ruins. There is the King's Highway that leads down to Shatterclaw, and then the Shatterclaw Barracks at the base of the mountain range. Then you've got the capital, which is now burning and on fire. There are flame horses riding around, nightmares. There's a whole forest that's been explored that is littered with owlbears, a portal that leads to the island or continent of Van Roost, and then the Huda village as well, where the Gnolls were pushed out of their own village by some large treant wood druid beast thing. It's been an epic adventure as they've explored this continent. And one thing I do need to add is there's actually on the nose of the seahorse-like landmass that is Arkenhath, one of the heroes went off on their own and discovered a cape that has been destroyed by some sea beasts that have emerged from the water and started taking the fight. The realm of My Shenandoah is currently being invaded by something called the Legion, and they have no idea how they're going to stop it or how tough these things actually are. They know there's at least 5 of them. They've come up against the Harbingers of the Legion, but there is something else out there that is, the Legion is effectively, from what they understand, marking the arrival of something else. And that is what's going to be fantastic about this campaign setting. All that stuff that I just talked about is the second age of My Shenandoah. There was a precursory before that, an initial Heroes Guild that was run and operated by adults, which has since disbanded in millennia's past. Guild Grandmaster Danon summoned the junior heroes to the guild and reactivated it because he has found that My Shenandoah is in need of aid. And that, I think, is fantastic in itself. The story is amazing. The comments we've been getting when we've been doing our battle reports from My Shenandoah, which you can find on Instagram and Facebook, have been getting some amazing love. And I think some of the parents have been following on going, well, hang on, where's the adult heroes guild? Where's our turn? So I think that's why this new campaign that we're about to start playtesting is going to be a big hit, because it's in the same setting, using similar characters and everything else as well. However, it is keyed specifically for adults, and it'll be very interesting to see where those players take that adventure. All right. Well, having said all that, folks, having spoken my mind ad nauseum about the epicness that is Dungeons and Dragons, unless there's anything else anyone wants to add to Darren's epic setting that he started to put together, we will have more D&D content for you in the not too distant future. There is more on the line in terms of unboxings and things for the channel as well. So by all means, stick around for those. In terms of D&D, I'm hoping we can get another live stream happening of a live play like we did for the Lost Mine of Phandelver, which we played through with Charlotte and Ben, which was absolutely epic. That final combat was like 2 hours of just combat alone. It was amazing. Want to try and do a couple of interviews as well with some other D&D like-minded folks. I want to do a DM's chat with a couple of DMs that I have worked with in the past. But if there's anything Dungeons & Dragons related that you would like to see on the channel, by all means, please let us know either in the comments or reach out to us at orders@hpgaming.com.au, and we're more than happy to get involved. I will say too, I've been very excited to say, I'm having been a pro DM now for nearly 2 years. I am very excited to say that I've been booked out for my first birthday party for a Dungeons & Dragons party, so that's very exciting. There is plenty more to discuss. As I said, plenty more on the channel, folks. Very excited to see where this takes us. If you have any questions, comments, if you need help, if you want to hit me up for a game, by all means, please do so. You can find me on Start Playing under Matt the GM, or you can hit me up here on the YouTube channel as well. Otherwise, folks, have a great day. If you are here in Melbourne, I know it's overcast and a little bit drizzly outside, but get out there and have some fun. Enjoy your epic adventures. And if you are in other parts of the world tuning in from all over the place, stay safe, be kind to each other, get out there, play more games, and we will see you back here very, very soon for more epic content. Thank you very much for joining me this morning, folks. Until then, it is bye for now.